Welcome to My Learnings to become a Scrum Master. In the previous video, we have seen about the part 1, what is a user story. And now, in this video, we are going to see about the part 2, 3C's formula. 3C formula mainly contains the card, conversation, and confirmation. In this, we are going to see in detail about the 3C's formula. The first C is the card, the initial future idea which contains. The next C, conversation, is the conversation between the team, where we have a team discussion to reach according to the shared understanding. Next C is the confirmation. According to the acceptance criteria, whatever the acceptance will be done, like the acceptance criteria which is defined. We'll see one by one in the 3C formula. The first C is the card, where you'll be having the requirement is documented in simple form on a user story card. Basically, it will contain the planning and estimation. Next C is the conversation. Conversation is having a discussion between the team, the users, the product owner, the stakeholders, etc. Throughout the build, make sure to ensure that the final product will be what the product owner required. Mainly, will be having a shared understanding about the build which you are going to do in the project. And next is the confirmation. Confirmation is the conditions that need to be satisfied to ensure that the story meets all the customer requirements according to the acceptance criteria which is defined. The 3C formula is the card, the first C in detail. Here, first C contains a written description of a user story used for planning and estimation, which we discussed earlier. This card represents the initial idea written on the recipe card. These recipe cards are a great size of 3 by 5 note card, which is manually written on the index card to keep concise, clear understanding. This card represents the initial uh, idea written on the recipe card. The front of the card used for title, user story, text, and poker point estimate. The back side of the card works for the details like acceptance criteria. The size of the card forces teams to keep stories small. The card is written by the product owner or the business value team, and a user story is described as a placeholder for a conversation. This means that it does not and should not contain all the information required to build. Next, we'll enter into the conversation. In the conversation, we are going to have the standard format that has a basic components as a particular user or a role. I want to perform this action so that I can achieve this goal. The role describes who is receiving the value. The action describes how the flow to value is initiated, and the value describes the desired outcome. If you take an example of a system administrator, as a system administrator, I want to have a special account privileges so that I can perform restricted administrative tasks. This conversation is a step where the entire team has a conversation about what the single line of the user story means and what is expected from the implementation. Once a story is written, it's a time to work towards the real goal of user stories, which is achieving a shared understanding amongst the team and the shared stakeholders. This is done collaboratively and interactively. Questions and solutions, suggestions, examples of other implementations, anything the team might be wondering makes up this conversation. So when you say about the shared understanding amongst the team and the stakeholders, this is done collaboratively and interactively. We ask the questions primarily about who, the what, and the why of the story and focus on the when and how later in the process. We might end up with a list of questions that will eventually become the part of the story itself. The list of questions that might be the part of user story itself is like, how do we know someone is an admin or not? And how do we make up someone an admin? And how do we make an admin a regular user? And then next, are there any other special rules that apply to admin accounts? If you talk about the first question, how do you know someone is an admin or not? Is a special flag which will be used in the user record. Second, how do we make someone an admin? Set the flag in the user record using the update API. How do we make an admin a regular user? Reset the flag in the user record using the update API. Are there any other special rules that apply to admin accounts? Yes, admin accounts must change a password every 30 days. Next is the confirmation. Confirmation is the criteria are then decided upon in consensus. They will form the acceptance criteria for the fulfillment of the user story. Acceptance criteria is a simple notes or a conditions added to the user stories that tells what needs to do to satisfy the customer defined by the product owner. Acceptance criteria enriches the user story by making testable and ensures the user story is ready to for demo. The product owner writes the initial acceptance criteria and brings them to discuss with the team, and they decide and come to a common agreement on what acceptance criteria the part of user story. As with the narrate of the user story, it is efficient to maintain some consistency among acceptance criteria. This can be achieved using the formula given precondition when action accept result. When you talk about the acceptance criteria as an admin, give an active user when I set admin flag on their account, then I expect them to be considered to have administrative privileges and can execute any admin function. Second acceptance criteria, give an admin user when I unset admin flag on their account, then I expect administrative privileges to have been revoked. Third, given an admin user, when 30 days have elapsed since their last password change, then I expect them to be compelled to change their password. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe.